Welcome to part 7 of Competency 1. In this video, we will work with laws of exponents. Before we begin, please note the laws of exponents. They're called laws or rules. Here we have listed 9 of them. They are extremely important if you are not familiar with these laws, or rather rules. Please stop the video and take another look and become more familiar with them. All right, number 1. Which of the following is not equivalent to negative 3 to the second power? Okay, please note that it says not. All right, not. Okay, so we're looking for the one that doesn't work out. Well, the rule is that when something's to the second power, that means the base item in this case is negative 3. It's multiplied 2 times, or rather to itself. Well, that tells me C is equivalent, and I wouldn't want that one. However, the others, we're a little shaky with. So let's put things in the calculator to check them out. All right, so let's begin with A. All right, negative 3 squared. Okay, it's exactly the way it's typed. Press enter. Well, that's negative 9. Okay, well, we need something to measure against. Well, let's look at the actual given. We didn't put that in first, so let's do that. So parentheses, negative 3, close your parentheses rather, and square it, push enter. Well, it's actually 9. So we're looking for what's not equivalent. So I would say A in this case, but let's go ahead and look at B because that just seems too easy, okay? Well, 3 squared, we know that equals 9, okay? So mark out B because it is equivalent because remember, we just showed that equals 9. And C, well, we've already said before we began that the square root, negative 3 times negative 3 would be 9. We'll put that in the calculator just to make sure. Notice I'm entering it exactly the way it's typed. Press enter, and that equals 9. So, yes, we are correct. We can't select that one. Now, 3 times 3 is 9. Okay, so we'll just put that in just to show it. Okay, so we know that that is actually equivalent also. So the option that we want is A. Okay, all right, let's look at number 2. What is the value of, in parentheses, negative 2 to the 0 power times negative 2 to the 3rd power times negative 2 to the 4th power, all divided by the fraction 2/3 to the 2nd power? Well, we're not going to guess on this. We'll simply just put it in the calculator. So parentheses, negative 2, carry it up to the 0. Now you have to arrow all the way over, okay? Now times, and parentheses, negative 2, and this time it's carried up to the 3rd power. Arrow over, parentheses, negative 2, carry it up to the 4th, arrow over, and then divide in parentheses, and we need a fraction. So 2, arrow down 3, then arrow over. Okay, close your parentheses. Now we need to square that. Okay, and double check. Let's double check to make sure we've entered it correctly. And oh, I see a discrepancy right here. See that? Well, don't worry about that. We were going to do a little type over. So we see where the mistake is made. So push times and parentheses and negative 2. Close that parentheses. Now, before you do anything, arrow over and look at what we have. That's the thing about when you're using powers. Don't delete everything out. Just start your type over and you'll see where the calculator allows it. Now, also make note of above your delete, we also have this insert button if we need it. Okay, but in this case, we didn't. Okay, let's arrow over, make sure we have divide, and we have the fraction, and then it's squared. So it looks like we should be okay. Let's push enter. And that is correct, option B. Okay, all right. You may want to go back and see what I did and play with the delete and the insert. Like I can go up and I can grab that. You highlight it and push enter. You grab it back down. Okay, now let's see what we could do here. I'm going to delete that. See how I deleted our divide by symbol? Now, if I say second delete, that means insert, and I'm going to push division, and it puts it right back for me. So there are ways to correct what you need. Okay, even if you make a mistake, it's okay. All right, so let's look at number 3. Which of the following is not equivalent? Oh, we have another not situation. Equivalent to 4 to the 2/3 power. Now be careful. When you see this, oh, sorry about that. I was going to highlight that. And let's see here for some reason. Let's see if there it is. Okay, for some reason my technology wasn't working. Okay, so I'm going to highlight, be careful that 4, that you realize how it's typed, that is a power, even though it's a fraction. Okay, now that being said, if we look at our rules, we see that the 3 should be cubic. Okay, let's go up and take a look. That would be this one right here, the very last one. Okay, now take a look at what we have. B becomes this, in this case, it's cube. Okay, it's your root. And then the 2 is actually that exponent situation, which would be where the A is. So let's take a look at what we have. Well, A satisfies that. It actually mimics it perfectly. So A can't be chosen because we're looking for what not works, what doesn't work. Okay, let's clear out our calculator so we can really see what's going on here. Okay, so look at B. Well, B has 3 or cubic, but we have 16 under that root. Well, 4 to the second power is 16. So that's the same thing. Actually, we could prove that to ourselves. So let's take a look at that. Okay. And if you haven't watched other videos with me, when we're entering this type of root, you need to look at what root you're using. In this case, it's 3. Push your 3 and oops, let's clear all that out. That's okay. Now let's push our 3. 3, second, and see where our caret is? Okay, that's what you need to push because above that it has the X and then your radical. So now we have our 3 and we can put in 4 squared and push enter. Okay, now what can we do? Well, now we want to see if that's the same as 16. I mean, we know it is, but it's always good to test it in your calculator. Now, note what I did. I went up twice. I arrowed up twice. It highlighted what I had before. Push enter, it brings it down. Now I'm going to arrow under this, and I'm just going to type in 16. Actually, that root right there, that square root, delete that thing out. And you see what I did? And I could start over. But if I started over, you wouldn't see these things that you can do with your calculator. Okay, now arrow out and push enter. It's the same thing. So obviously B isn't what we need. Okay, now let's take a look at C. C is very suspicious. Looks like it has the fraction like flipped over, a reciprocal. It has squaring. Okay, instead of the 3, I have a 2 here, and then instead of the 2, I have 3. Well, what does this one here? I'm going to erase that, and my technology's not happy with me. Okay, so let's show what it actually equals. This would actually equal 4 to the 3 halves. Definitely not the same thing. Okay, so now we need to take a look, which we've already proven. Okay, I'll erase that. Let's look at D, and now let's look at our calculator. That is equivalent. D is equivalent to A and B. So we cannot select it because we're looking for what? Not. What is not equivalent? So obviously C is the correct option. Number 4, what is the value of 4 to the negative 2 power? Okay, well, we can either put them all in the calculator or we can look at the rules or both. Okay, so A does not satisfy the rule because when you create the fraction, it actually would be positive. So let's take a look at this. If we have 4 carried up to the negative 2, that's going to equal 1 over 16, okay? Which, in my opinion, and I know, and you probably see it, that actually looks like option B, okay? But let's put option A in the calculator. So there's our fraction, there's 1, arrow down, 4 squared, push enter. Well, that's going to be option B. But now I said we're going to do option A and I didn't. So let's arrow up and push enter. Notice it captures it and you can arrow over and simply type over negative 2 and push enter. And that's actually 16 itself. So A cannot be an option. B, we've shown it works. Well, let's look at C and D. Well, I already have these guys memorized, and they're both going to be from the family of eighths. So we should have 5 eighths and 1 eighth. So let's look at C. All right, so that's 0.625. All right, what do? You've typed it in, but you haven't entered it. So you have to actually push enter. Now you're like, well, what good does that do me? Well, it does a lot of good. See above the enter button, push that toggle, 5 eighths. Well, that's not going to equal the given. So A's out. And D, I know is 1 eighth. But let's enter it in. 0.125. Okay, now it's typed in. Now we have to actually enter it in. Then push the toggle button above, and it is 1 eighth, and it's not equivalent. So we verified option B. Let's look at number 5. What is the value of this full expression? Well, what do? We just type it in, okay? And the expression looks a little odd, but that's how it was on the paper. So that's how we're going to type it in, okay? So parentheses and a fraction, and that will be 1. Arrow down 3 over all the way. Now push our parentheses, and we need the caret up, negative 3. Arrow all the way over. Okay, now minus in parentheses 2, caret up 3, and you have to arrow over and push parentheses, and then caret up again, and then 3. Okay, notice that when it's typed in, it looks different, but just verify that you've done it correctly. Now arrow over Now we have a division in 16, but we need to carry it up, push our fraction. Now we have 3 over 2. Okay. Now we can arrow back and forth to verify that we've entered it the way it is on the paper. Okay. All right. So let's go back. Look again. Looks like everything is okay. So we can push enter, and 19 is actually the correct value. Okay. All right. You can try it in different ways. Do it by hand, do it in pieces to prove this to yourself. Okay. All right. Let's go to number 6. All right. Let's go up. We'll go up all the way. Which of the following is not equivalent to 3 to 6 over 3 to the 11th? Okay, what you need to remember from your rules of exponents is that when we have these exponents in a division situation, that means subtraction. That means that you have the same base. So you take the exponent of the numerator and subtract the exponent of the denominator. Okay. Well, if we look at that, that's exactly C below it. And since that's equivalent, we can't select it. Now let's go back over to A. Well, looks to me like A is using the wrong law. Instead of subtracting, it's adding. So I'm going to say I like A. So let's choose it for now. But let's backtrack a little, okay? Let's clear out what we have on our calculator so we can see everything better. And let's actually put in the given fraction, okay? So push fraction and say 3 caret up to the 6, arrow down, 3 caret up to the 11, okay? Right? And you can arrow over, double check what you entered. Now, let's push the enter button. And we have a fraction. Now, we can also see it in decimal form, okay? So let's push the toggle. Okay, there we go. Now we have something to work with. So let's take A and put it in the calculator, okay? So that would be 3 caret up to the 17. Push enter. Obviously, absolutely not the same number, okay? And it says which one is not. But let's double check the others, okay? All right. So let's do where option C, the one I wrote out, option C. Okay, so 3 caret up, and we want 6 minus 11. Enter. That's that equivalent fraction we had earlier. Okay, so we know not to choose that one. And let's try B. That is 3 caret up to the negative 5. Enter. Same thing. So we can verify that that's not an option. Now let's try D. We need a fraction, and that's 1. In the numerator, arrow down, and that is 3 caret up to the 5. Push enter, same fraction. So obviously, option B is the correct selection. Okay, let's look at number 7. Which of the following best shows the laws that explain why a to the negative 1 equals 1 over a to the first, which equals 1 over a? Okay. Well, this is a really good question. I really like this question, and I'll tell you why. Because it's super hard at that 8th grade level to explain this to students. Well, ninth grade for that matter. But you will, at the middle school level, this will come up with your 8th grade and your 7th graders taking the 8th grade test, okay? And definitely your 8th graders that are in algebra. Okay, so this is a little dicey. So let's look at A first. They have x to the first over x to the second, and then it equals x1 minus 2. I absolutely agree with all this. I agree with this, and then what it equals. But does it really show why? Well, it does in a way. I don't disagree with it. It mimics what we have, but let's look at B. Well, B starts out with the same fraction, but it equals a cancellation. So what they're saying is if you cancel this x and cancel that x, well, that would actually leave you the understood 1. And I agree with that. Okay, but I agree with A and B. They're both correct and they both give valid explanations. As you notice, A is where we started and B is where we ended in the given. So let's look at C. Well, that's x with 1 minus 2 to the power of 1 minus 2, which equals x to the negative 1 power. And then it ends with a fraction. Well, C is just A backwards. Well, I'm not sure I like that. C, I don't know if we could call that an explanation. Sort of. But I'm not liking it. That's not the way I would show it to a student. Well, let's look at D. Well, D, that's just mimicking A. Okay, and then it has the and let's see what it gives us. Looks like it gives us B. So D is 2 parts. So it's saying this explanation or this is true and this is true. Well, in my opinion, D is the best thing because it's giving us 2 things. And with this word and, here, that's not really what I wanted to do. If my technology, there it is. What I really wanted to highlight was we have our fraction of 1 over x, and then it also gives us y, or rather that it also equals x to the negative 1. I would say that's our best explanation. And in the classroom, this is actually what I do. I use my laws. We look at the laws. We show them in the calculator using small values. And then we line out, well, look at what happens when I do, which would be from A, the first part of D. That makes sense because that's just cancellation. Okay, you can cancel, right? Then that makes Y, when you show it that way, then the second part kind of explains why we can subtract this. And if we use some small numbers, that would really bring it home. So let's use 2, x equals 2. Okay, so if we say x equals 2, this would imply that, if I could draw an arrow, that would imply that 1 over 2 equals 2 to the negative 1 power. Okay, and then if we put that in the calculator, we would get a half. You can try other numbers, and it does start making it makes it seem more reasonable and makes sense to the student. All right, this is the last question in this video, and once again, I want to really I want to thank everyone for watching and sharing and liking us, and subscribing is greatly appreciated. Happy testing, everybody.